Good morning. Good morning. And grace and peace to you. Told Rick I would be up here this morning because last week we were all filled up, and I was thinking, and Shirley said, maybe you better get up here because they're getting too close to the group. I like to be down there with you all, but there it is again. But I told Rick I'd be up here, but okay, that's all right. Enough of that. More like Jesus, less like me, right? Absolutely. I want to talk about opportunities this morning. 1 Corinthians 4:2, we're going to start there. Paul is talking about being a good steward. And he was entrusted with the gospel, and he says there, it is required of stewards that one be found trustworthy. And a steward, we don't use that word too much today, but someone entrusted with a unique responsibility. The proper care of something, the proper use of something, the proper functioning of something. It might have been a farm, a vineyard, an inheritance, some amount of money, maybe an estate, even could have been a child. The person was given a stewardship and they were accepting that responsibility. They had proven that they were a responsible person, and so they were given this stewardship to care for something. We Christians often speak of being good stewards, and I think most of the time that has to do with we're thinking about money or property, and that's an appropriate application of the word, whether you're talking about your personal wealth, your personal bank account, what God has blessed you with, or in the case of the brothers, overseeing the treasury of the congregation, the money that's given, that it's used wisely to accomplish God's purposes and not to be wasted. We always think of that idea when we think about stewardship, not to be wasteful, but to be wise in how we use our money. But I want to talk about other than money this morning in regard to being stewards. We have been entrusted with more than physical resources. I want to talk about time and opportunities. And I just want to pose this question at this time. Which do you think is more important? Your money or your time? Which do you think God thinks is more important? Your money or your time? The opportunities that God gives you. Which do you think He thinks is more important? Just consider this. And we could, if you want, go to 2 Chronicles chapter 25 and read the story there about Amaziah the king. I'm not going to go there. But he had spent some money hiring an army. And God told him, I don't want you to use that army. Because they were actually from the northern kingdom, and he says, they're not pleasing to me. I want you to just tell them to go home. And Amaziah said there, well, Lord, what about the money that I hired them with? And God said, basically, forget about it. I can give you as much money as I want to. Time and opportunity are much more important than any money that we have. Think about it. We can never recover time, right? Once an opportunity has passed us by, it's gone. It will not come back. Money can be replaced, but not time. So we want to look at that this morning out of Mark chapter 14. Take a look at event, as always, in Jesus' life and draw some applications here about time and opportunity. And I know we've all been there at one time or another. Did you ever waste an opportunity? Come on. You look back and you said, man, I blew it. There was opportunity. I could have talked to that person. I could have done this. I could have done that. I was there and I didn't do it. Even if it was just a simple thing, you went to some city and there was, let's say you went to New York and you were thinking about going to see the Statue of Liberty, but you didn't. You said, oh man, I should have gone there. I missed it. I missed my opportunity. We've all done that. So here we're going to talk about an opportunity that someone had. Mark 14, to set this up, 1 and 2. Now the Passover and unleavened bread were 2 days away, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to seize him by stealth and kill him. For they were saying, not during the festival, otherwise there might be a riot of the people. This kind of sets up the situation here. This was toward the end of Jesus' ministry. He was facing the cross. It was near. In fact, probably in the following week, as I'm understanding the text here. The crucifixion was imminent, and we know that the chief priests and others had been opposing Jesus for quite a while, pretty much all his ministry. And many of them had said, we got to get rid of this guy. And now the plotting becomes in earnest. We got to find a way to get rid of him. And not long after this, of course, they hook up with Judas, and he betrays the Lord. So they were, in fact, looking for an opportunity, right? That's what they were doing. They were looking for an opportunity to get rid of Jesus. Verse 3, while he was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper and reclining at the table, there came a woman with an alabaster vial of very costly perfume of pure nard. And she broke the vial and poured it over his head. Bethany was very near Jerusalem. It was the hometown of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. In fact, this account in John says that it was Mary who did this. Simon the leper, he was in his house. Evidently, Simon, I'm just reading between the lines here, must have been healed, cured by Jesus. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in Simon's house. They weren't allowed to be in Simon's house if he still had leprosy because he was unclean. So we're speculating here that Jesus had cleansed him, and now they were there for a meal. The perfume here is nard or spikenard. Some translations may have. It was very costly. A very aromatic oil, very special oil. We're not told exactly what the size of this vial was, but later on we're told how much they speculated that was cost, what the price was. And this woman just comes in, breaks this vial, and pours it over Jesus' head. She anoints him with this oil. Now, we all know that anointing with olive oil was something that was always done. And it was something that was a show of hospitality, that in the day, people walked out in the heat, on the dry roads. Chuck was just telling me this morning how they had their first car show and they were out in the heat and got kind of cooked a little bit. And Shirley and I were out in the yard yesterday, not very long, and it was hot and you got cooked. Well, You know, they couldn't just jump in the old SUV and flip on the air conditioning and drive to wherever they wanted to go. When they went somewhere, they had to walk. And so that was one reason they anointed with oil. It replenished what you lost that was dry, and it was refreshing, and that was part of just their culture and what they did in the day. But this was not olive oil. This was spikenard. And there was a whole lot of it that she just evidently poured on Jesus' head, a very costly perfume. So we wonder and ask the question before we move on, what was going on here? Why does this woman choose to do this? And in fact, as we read on, we see that a lot of the people that were there were asking the same kind of a question. Verse 4. But some were indignantly remarking to one another, why has this perfume been wasted? For this perfume might have been sold for over 300 denarii in the money given to the poor. And they were scolding her. Some, were saying here that she has wasted this very costly perfume. 300 denarii, as many of you know, as we've studied, the denarius was the coin that was the one-day wage for a common laborer. So this was worth about 300 days' worth of salary or wages. So that's almost a year's worth of wages for the common person. So it was worth a lot of money. And it does seem like a waste, like it's extravagant. People might have used the spikenard to anoint some kind of royalty if they came to your house. Let's see, Jesus was a king, right? He was a king. Anyway, her detractors offered a better use. They think it was a waste, right? Why, what are you doing this? You could have sold that spikenard 300 denarii. You could have given that money to the poor. Wow, you could have fed a lot of poor people with a whole lot of bread, a whole lot of fish. You could have done that. It's a waste. You wasted this spikenard in doing what you did with it. That sounds reasonable. Maybe they were thinking of being good stewards of what she had, you know. Did she waste this nard? The New King James there says, they were criticizing her sharply, scolding her, yelling at her. What'd you do this for? You could have sold that, given the money to the poor. Well, verse 6. But Jesus said, let her alone. Don't you love Jesus? He always has the right take on everything. Let her alone. Why do you bother her? She has done a good deed to me. To him, she did not waste this spikenard. She had done a good deed. She was not extravagant. She did not break the rule of good stewardship. She did something good. I was thinking about this just this morning. And as it said, they're plotting against Jesus. His time is short. He's facing the cross. And we know in the garden, he was feeling very much alone. He was left alone. and how those thoughts might have been crushing in on him about he's going to face this cross very soon. And so this deed that was done for him would have been something very refreshing, very encouraging, that someone has thought about me. She's doing this for me. It's a good thing that she has done. Verse 7. He says, "For you always have the poor with you. And whenever you wish, you can do good to them, but you do not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for the burial." So he says their idea here of giving this all to the poor was not timely. He says you always have the poor. That's a truism that lasts forever. There will always be poor. Poverty will never be eradicated from the face of the earth. Despite what everybody says and all these programs that we're going to get rid of it, listen to the words of Jesus. You will always have opportunity to help poor people for various reasons. And I listed a few here just to let this sink into our heads. Disease. The breadwinner gets sick and goes down and can't work. Things fall apart. Loss of a job for various reasons. Your company downsizes. Your company chooses to install robots and mechanization, and you're out of the work. And you can't find anything for your skill. War. How many people in Ukraine do you think now will live in poverty because of what's happened? Their place of employment is gone. Their employer is gone. Their city is gone. How many will live in poverty? They're living in poverty now. Famine and drought, always the scourge of the farmer. Crops won't grow. Divorce. How many people know of someone who went through a divorce and they lost it all? They got really taken to the cleaners, as we would say. And now they hardly have 2 cents to rub together. Death. Death of the breadwinner. And the other person just does not have the wherewithal to work. Waste. How many people are really given a lot? They're really blessed. But they just waste it. Throw it away, invest it in things that just don't work. Consume it on themselves, and they end up with nothing. They end up in the breadline. And I was just reading the other day about some of our veterans, what a great percentage of the homeless people in this country are veterans. They gave their time, their skills, their sweat and tears and their blood to keep us free, and they come back and they cannot integrate into society, and they end up homeless in the poor, poverty. We'll always have the poor. Jesus is right. And when we have opportunity, we should help them out. He says she has done what she could. I love that line. We've all heard the expression. I forget who it was that first coined this idea. Do what you can with what you have where you are. And that's true. That's what Jesus is saying here. She did what she could. She had the ointment, and she seized an opportunity to do something good for Jesus before he went to the cross. Jesus was in town. Jesus was here. The cross was near. She took the opportunity and anointed him. Jesus commends her for this. In his estimation, she has been a good steward. She anointed his body for burial. She did not waste this spikenard. Verse 9, truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of her. And of course, we're reading that line, and we're telling this story right now to fulfill Jesus' words. We will remember her and what she did for Jesus before he went to the cross. She took an opportunity. She anointed him. She did what she could for him. Now I want to look at some takeaways for us from this lesson. First of all, we should be looking for opportunities to do good. As Paul writes to Titus, to teach our people to be ready for every good work. To be ready. That starts in the mind and in the heart. To be looking for opportunities to do good. That's what we're about. Doing good to help those in need, to help those in trouble, whatever that might be. We have the problem of always just sticking to the same old routine, do things the same way. We just think about our own situation, what we always do. I go to the store, I come back, I put my stuff away, I go to the bank, I deposit, I come back, whatever it is, and tonight we got burgers and fries tonight, and we sit down and watch TV, and it's just always about us. Are we looking for opportunities to help people? To be aware when we're out and about? Do we engage in conversation with people? Or do we just walk around with the blinders on, just doing our own thing? Are we looking for opportunities? Who has a need? Who has a problem? Who has a situation? Who's looking sad? Who's looking troubled? Who's looking flustered? Don't be afraid to ask. Then, when we have opportunities, we said at the outset, do we seize them? When we see an opportunity, someone has a need, someone has a problem, if there is a situation, do we get involved? Do we hold back? Do we wait for somebody else to do it? Are we afraid of something, of failing or messing up or whatever? Seize that opportunity. Get in there. Do good. Let go of yourself. Follow this woman's lead. And then number 3, are we afraid to be a little extravagant at times? To break your rule? We're so taught, wow, be that good steward. You don't want to waste anything. You don't want to go too far. Wow. Sometimes I think that keeps us from doing good. We got that so programmed into our heads. Some examples. Some of these I thought applied to husbands and some to wives. Some of us as husbands, we're good at, Valentine's Day, anniversary, Christmas. What about October the 12th? Just because you love her, get her some flowers. Oh, but that's not in my budget. You know, that's a little too extravagant. That's a waste. Why should I do that? See where I'm going with this? Just for no reason. Say, honey, you've been working hard all week. We're going out tonight. For no reason, guys. No reason. Just because you love her. Oh, but that's a waste of money. You think so? Did Jesus think this was a waste of money? Somebody did a good thing for her. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy her a Lamborghini. I'm not saying that. You know what you can spend, but we are talking about stepping outside the box here. Seizing an opportunity, looking for an opportunity, making an opportunity to do something. Wives in the same way, whatever. You know his favorite meal. Do you wait to cook it on his birthday? You know, why not on July 31st? Honey, I love you. Whatever it is, there it is. How about at the restaurant? How well do you tip? I think we talked about this in a lesson a couple years ago. Do you get out the calculator? What is it now, 15%, 20%? Oh, that's what it should be. $7.09. You got that, honey? Come on. Be extravagant. Put some money on the table. An anonymous gift card for somebody that you know is struggling. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Should I do that? What's Jesus say? She did a good thing. Offer to pray with somebody. Gee, I don't know. I would feel weird. Should I do that? How do you, if somebody's really hurting, what do you think they would feel like if you offered to pray for them, with them, right now, on the spot? Maybe they would rebuff you, but chances are they would not. Do something good. A good word. A word of encouragement. Be strong, hang in there. An invitation. Why don't you come home with us and eat dinner? Look for opportunities, seize opportunities. And then, of course, share the gospel. Share the word. Tell them what Jesus is doing in your life, what he's done for you, how we study in our Bible class. He set me free. He set me free from all that's evil and the law and Satan and the fear of death. He set me free. Would you like to be free? And then when I was doing this, reading another little book last night, and this came to mind. Remember Matthew 25? The parable, and I think it's a parable of the sheep and the goats. The judgment day. And Jesus separates the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. And he tells the sheep, come to me. You blessed my Father because you did this and this and this. You visited me. You visited the sick, and you visited those in prison, and you gave me something to eat and something to drink. And they said, when do we do that, Lord? And he said, in that you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. That's what this woman did. Although Jesus was right there, she did it to him. And so when we're looking for opportunities, we should see not just a person, but Jesus. You did it to me. See how the scripture works? It come full circle. It's beautiful. I'm going to end up here in Galatians 6:10. So then, while we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. While we have opportunity. They slip away so fast. And we have to be ready for them. Because they can just pop up in an instant. And they could be gone in 30 seconds. A minute. And it's gone. So we have to be ready. And we have to be looking for opportunities. We have to be looking for Jesus so we can do good to him. God bless you.